Hi everybody, welcome to Chapter 9 from Money in Schools. I'm going to be honest with you, this is the end of the day. I know this is the longest chapter that we're going to cover, so sit back, relax, try to grasp some of this stuff, and hopefully you take the time to watch the video for this. Budgeting for school infrastructure is a big idea, and it's something that we don't really stress much in school. But I think it's important, especially because some of you are being tracked to be district leaders, some of you want to be building principals, some of you don't want to work in education at all. I think these are big ideas, and I think these are things that we need to consider, and this will be a fairly long lecture. So I give you our chapter objectives as I normally do. You can take a minute to read over those and look over them, but I promise you we'll be covering every single one of them here. So, infrastructure is normally handled at the district level. That is a big idea. Despite that, I argue that nobody knows what a school needs better than the building principal. Districts that allow for building involvement to plan for facilities, keep their principals happy, everybody wins. It's a big idea. So I can't stress enough how important that it is that principals understand what's being done at the district level for infrastructure. The size of the district really dictates how infrastructure runs. That's another big idea. It's imperative that you understand that some districts have a central personnel that handles this stuff. Others leave the responsibilities to the superintendent. It's a major expenditure, and because of that, the person most responsible for this is in close contact with the school board, and they're the ones that have to make the decisions. So infrastructure is the physical environment in education. It's the school plant, and it's the facilities. Anytime we talk about infrastructure, it does not matter what you want, it's what you need. In infrastructure, it's need-based. You want a new school? That's great. Unless this other school's falling apart, or they can't accommodate the students anymore, that's a problem. So, the condition of schools. OSHA and IDA are really responsible for setting standards as to how schools should look and how they should be accommodating for all students. We are in a position where the population in schools is shifted very commonly. Older schools are better equipped for more students. Newer schools are normally smaller and student-centered because of what the population is. Average American family has 2.4 children. Because of that, you're going to see a much smaller and student-centered school, where your older schools are going to still have the big, large structures that they had in the 60s and 70s. So you have to understand that before we even really get into the facilities issue, because if you don't understand that, then none of the other stuff's going to make sense to you. School infrastructure is funded differently by every state. Only 8 states don't provide support for infrastructure. If they don't, that means that they come out of the local cost share. When things come out of the local cost share, that can be a major, major problem and major challenge, and it's an expense that comes out of local tax dollars. So, local property taxes come out of local property taxes. I mean, that's where the local cost share comes from. Different stakeholders then feel entitled to the money. They say, I'm paying taxes, this is how my money should be spent. You've heard a lot of people say things like that. So we're going to talk about 3 funding sources that are local, which are bonds, sinking funds, and current revenues. Current revenues basically are when a local school supplements aid received for facility needs, but also supports on a pay-as-you-go system. If you get into wealthier and more affluent school districts, this becomes a problem because they're not going to be able to build their dream ideal model because it's a pay-as-you-go. A lot of the times they're going to have to try to get loans, which are your bonds, but if you do something that uses current revenues, it's going to create it better in a smaller school district, but your large and mid-sized school districts do not use this model. Sinking funds means that there's a savings account, and it's just going to keep getting money. The tax dollars come in, and as the tax dollars come in, we're going to use that money to pay for a large infrastructure project. Tax levies are invested, there's an end planned, an end game, and then it's used to spend money when it's ready to be spent. If you have higher interest, it's a great method to use for school districts. Bonds are what we most commonly see. Districts get long-term debt. They're permitted to have it for facility design. Then investors purchase the debt so that the investors get the money and they get the interest off of it, knowing full well it's not going to be paid back in 20 years. Most districts that issue bonds do them for a 20-year period. So if you have a major capital project and it is the lifeblood of the school and the project that the school wants and they're going to live and die for, possible that it might take a while. It might take a while for that money to come in. So the next step you have is determine what the building actually needs. This goes without saying. We know that there are challenges with overcrowded buildings, but some buildings don't have appropriate air conditioning, electrical service, and that's a challenge too. What about technology infrastructure? That could be a massive problem and a massive concern in a district. So there are 6 needs in a building. You have to worry about the school-age population to be served, location and transportation of the school-age population, the program offerings, the long-range facility needs, how much the taxpayers can pay, the org structure, and the economic and demographic future. We're going to talk about each one of these a little at a time. So every single decision on facilities should be made based on the people in school that they are supposed to be for. If you make decisions if you make school-based decisions for children that are sitting in large giant desks, and in all honesty, they shouldn't be sitting in those large giant desks, that can be a big problem. You have to forecast. You have to know how many people are going to come in, how many classrooms you're going to need. This is why I had you in the demographic paper look up all of this stuff. It is truly practical, and it's the most important decision you'll make as a district leader. If you can't fit and you can't accommodate the students that are supposed to be in your building, then you have a problem. You have to make sure that you do appropriate demographic planning and forecasting, and if you don't, nothing is going to get done and nothing's going to get accomplished. So, transportation is a huge deal. In large rural school districts, it's a massive deal. Should kids catch 2 buses to go to school? Should they be on a bus for an hour? What if there's snow? What if there's a massive rainstorm? Can that impact attendance? The high school has to be centrally located. You want to fix schools, you want to improve problems. If your high school is centrally located, that eliminates so many significant problems, and I can't stress that enough. Make sure the high school is centrally located. What programs the district offers impacts the school as well. If you're an artsy school and you're a magnet school and you value art and music, you have to have facilities. You have to have a big stage, big band area, big practice rooms. If your district has a deep history of athletics, that's important too, and you have to improve the facilities based off of that. We have a district in this state that was the state champions of Oklahoma for 5 consecutive years. They put in basketball, and that was their focus. So their athletic stadium is more basketball oriented and not football. There's a deep history there. It's why people go to that high school. So what does the facility and what does the district need long term? If there are new babies in the school district, why? I'm telling you, demographics matters. Teacher ages matter. You know these are the ones that are going to be in your school for a long time. If you have a population of senior citizens, that's great. But they're not going to be there forever, and they're not going to pay taxes forever as well. So understand what the senior citizen population is and what they potentially represent. So you have to know if your taxpayers can pay money. If they can't pay money, then you don't get the money. So if this is a state, like this one is, where infrastructure is tied to taxes, it's very important. So the organizational structure of the school district matters as well. You have to determine how many buildings, what populations those buildings serve. Is it comprehensive? Is there a multitude of elementary schools? Are they community-based? Could the district consolidate their buildings? What's the teacher-to-student ratio? How many years' experience does the teacher have? All of these are big and massive questions that have to be done and have to be considered at the school level. So you have to ask yourself, too, are there businesses coming in the district that can support the tax base? Will those dollars actually see the hands of actual people that live in the district? Are there migrant workers who can't pay taxes? Is the district shrinking? Is it better to invest in a new building, or should you refurbish the existing building? Once again, other big ideas. The building leaders that have a background in maintenance are going to be more successful. Ones that understand how much something costs. They can help the facilities office, they can tell them what needs to change, what's important, and they can let them know when problems exist. If a school leader is proactive they can avoid many problems, and they're able to better interact with their staff much better and provide a better learning environment for their students. So maintenance ensures that the school district has continuous usability as long as it's repaired, replaced, and it's fixed when it needs to be. Having different philosophies in place that support maintenance is a big idea, and it's something that I would wildly encourage you to do as district leaders. So, what do you care about? You care about safety, you care about energy conservation because that saves money, you want it to be serviceable for the least amount of money, but it also to hold up over time. And you care about the general economy as well. Can we afford this? Can our district actually support this infrastructure? The basic plans that we mostly look at are local systems, contracted or outsources, or a combination of the above. What are the types of maintenance? Big idea here. I can tell you this is something that I value. This is something that I would strongly suggest you know the different types of maintenance going into the exam. Preventative maintenance is things like machines, systems, and structures. Periodic maintenance occurs on a recurring or contractual basis. Predictive means we're going to guess when something's going to break down, and if we think it's going to break down, we're going to try to fix it in advance. Recurring, it's stuff that you need to fix it daily, and you have to make sure that it's addressed daily. And things that are emergency, they're things that you have to make sure that they're fixed or repaired, or else it's not going to work. If the school doesn't have power, that's an emergency function. Custodial work, it's keeping the school clean. Do you open the school overnight for the custodians to work? Is there a nighttime custodian present? Do they have a specific job? Do they have a specific responsibility? Do you have maintenance employees that are only there to do maintenance and they train others? Do you have somebody who handles grounds, or do you outsource? Do you have somebody who's cutting the grass? Do you have somebody that's making the school look good? How do you train these people? Do they get professional development or not? Then you have to determine, do we give them salary? Do we give them overtime? Are they under a union contract? In some of your counties here, they are under a union contract. In some of your counties, they are not. So that's another important decision to make. How much time should principals spend on supervising them? Should there be a supervisor for maintenance? Big ideas, big questions. So, how do we select these people? This really comes from the community. But many school districts, including Florida, have started hiring students during the summer months to perform custodial duties and to ready the building for the upcoming year. School administrators are also people that need training, and those types of people have to get training on maintenance and facilities. I've made the argument early in this course, and you'll remember this from the first things, that school administrators do not get training in professional development. They don't. But facilities and maintenance, if they're not getting it in the first place, well, this is something else that they need help on, and they need to know how to understand and what to do to create good opportunities for maintenance and know what that looks like. So maintenance records are there to provide a snapshot of what's going on. Any major upgrades can be addressed. You can see what's needed or what's not needed. This way, you can assess the cost effectiveness of the school district and whether you need to replace equipment or not. Keeping accurate inventory is something else that might be that has to be overseen by the school business administrator, because you don't want too many hands in the cookie jar. The business administrator has to be the one that's making the decisions on how much inventory is there. One of the things that I'm seeing lately is this concept of a maintenance management system. It's this idea that there's a computer system that tells you what needs done, stuff's on a timer and when it needs to be replaced. You can use it for personnel functions as well. It costs a lot of money, but if you invest in it, it's a good idea. But somebody has to be proficient in computers that's doing it. In terms of plant operation, this is the day-to-day operations. These are cleaning, heating, and grounds care. It's imperative that staff know their responsibilities and be open when something needs replaced, or if it requires additional considerations. Don't just let something be there that can't be replaced. The superintendent and board try to determine where costs go, and they're the ones that are they're responsible for plant maintenance more than anything else. So, when you're looking at your school facilities, you have to ask different questions. You have to say, do they provide all necessary current and future learning programs? Are they in the approximate proximity to students? Is the physical condition of the building safe? Is the building worn out? Does anything need replacement? Is it cost effective to sell an old building and construct a new one with little or no added cost? Certainly those are some things to think about. The custodial department depends on the arrangement of each building. Most of the time, custodians are actually centralized by central administration. They assign individuals to buildings. In site-based management systems, the principal's responsible for that, but custodians normally are district employees, not building-level employees. That is a big idea because they can be assigned and reassigned at various times if it's going to benefit somebody in the system. Also, if students aren't going to work in the building, they can do overtime by going to different buildings. So, what you have to do, here are 4 duties and considerations for maintenance staffing. So, selection. You need to make sure that health, skills, and character are used when you're hiring somebody that's going to work on your maintenance staff. Title IX does pertain to maintenance and facility employees, so you have to make sure that you are not discriminating and you're making decisions based on equal opportunity for all. The textbook states, and I stutter with this and I stumble with this because it's so tough for me to say, that we should be awarding these systems on bidding, and if you want to be a custodian, it should be basically done on bidding, where you go and what you do, but I really think that's easier said than done. In our school system, a lot of times these employees get them based on patronage systems, and they'll use them as temporary holding places, so please keep that in mind as well. So, 1 employee should be at the building at all times. 1 custodian, 1 security guard, 1 person. Try to determine square footage measures when you're deciding who should be used. Our textbook on page 317 really says what square footage measures look like and might be worth you investigating, and looking at. Staff supervision, the building level, the principal normally looks into it, not the district level, but they basically decide how the custodians are doing, and then they converse with the central administration staff and say, okay, the custodian's doing this right, doing that right, so they're the ones that are making the decision. When you discipline somebody that's a maintenance staff, that means that it impacts many, many, many more people because of that, because central administration gets involved, your building level gets involved, so a lot of things to keep in mind. With reduction in force, maintenance and facilities, it happens commonly. When you decide when you cut somebody in this entity of schools, you do it, and you're allowed to do it, as long as the school is still safe. If the school's safe, you can make cuts. You can make reductions. The facility supervisor has the responsibility to work hand in hand and make sure that there are appropriate hires and cuts while still keeping the building safe. Union agreements, it depends really on the district. Some districts, the custodians are part of a union staff, the maintenance workers are. Sometimes they're unionized but the teachers aren't. Sometimes the teachers are but they aren't. You have to understand if the district is what that means. It can involve seniority, job shifting, vacancies, overtime pay, benefits, and there have to be grievance policies in place as well. If you're in a district that unionizes their facility staff, but they don't unionize their teachers, this becomes a problem, and it's something the building principals and building leaders have to familiarize themselves with so that there's no lawsuits. So we're going to talk about key ideas in energy and research conservation, which you know in this state is a very, very, very big idea. So we're going to talk about each one of these. So our textbook says that if a district is doing a good recycling program, you should offer a massive tax break. Do energy audits where necessary, but have an independent agency do it so they can actually say if the district is doing what they claim to be doing related to energy. Energy management should be done on a microcomputer. It should be something that's housed within the district. They can tell you and make suggestions. Well, these lights were on too much. This can be turned off. If you can use computer technology, you can save money, and you can document when and where energy costs can be saved and how it can benefit the district. Energy service companies sometimes offer free upgrades to schools. if you have a strong partnership with the company, the school commits to the energy company, this is great, and I strongly recommend this because it can support the school, it can give the school something that the school didn't expect to have. So this is a big idea, and it's definitely something that can help. So if you're working at a district that offers free energy upgrades, definitely